Hello, duckies and dice fiends. Welcome on in. It is Tuesday, and that means it is time for the Table Talk Show. I am Kay. I am one of your hosts here. We have an amazing guest, so we're going to speed run all of our fun intro stuff. David, who the heck is you, and what the heck is we doing here?
I am telling you that if you have not had boxed mac and cheese in the past 2 weeks, now is the sign. Now is the time. Do it. You only live once. And why would you ever deprive yourself of something? Anyway, hi, I'm David, and this is the Chaotic Wholesome Tuesday Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
And welcome on into the chat, Julie. Thank you for being first, dethroning JD Lady. As always, find us here every Tuesday doing this. Rex, thank you so much for the resub. 37 months is so long. Welcome in. We appreciate you. I'm seeing folks already lurking. We so appreciate. Hopefully, allegedly, Friday I will be over at Entropy Emporium playing the Weird Wilds War. And then this coming Saturday, if you saw on the little crawl at 1:30, I will be over at Dax's channel playing a Star Wars game for charity. It is a 2-shot, and all donations go to Extra Life. Y'all, we have art. The crew is already amazing, and I can't wait for you all to get to see this adventure. I am learning the Star Wars RPG system. The narrative dice might be the death of me, but you know, we'll experience it together.
Listen, Kay has not encountered a die that they can't roll a 1 on.
And fortunately, Dax is already proving to be a truly amazing GM, and I cannot wait to play her little adventure. So, all of that said, you're not here for us. We have an amazing guest this week, as I said. Jason, welcome on in. Who the heck is you, and what the heck do you do that has you here today?
Hey, thanks. I'm Jason, but you will find me everywhere else on the interwebs and elsewhere as Shadomain, Shadomain, because that is the name of the TTRPG blog website that we've been writing at least weekly for a few years, where we write about everything. There's a lot of the blah, blah, blah GM advice, but there's perspectives from brand new players, people who make models, I don't know, actual play, almost anybody is on the site. So we do interviews and news and reviews. That may be where you know me from. Although we also at Shadomain publish adventures and games. And that's when I'm not running games, because I am a forever GM by choice. So there you go. Oh, and I do eat boxed mac and cheese, but I opened the box. Am I doing it wrong before I eat it?
No, you got to eat the box.
Oh, see. All right.
Which reminds me, if you haven't seen Sinners, go see Sinners. And for those who've seen it, they probably have an idea of the joke that I'm referencing. Kay, when you see Sinners, you will get the joke that I'm referencing.
Oh, everybody needs to see Sinners.
Sinners has been on my I have to watch this list, but every time I've had the time to have it, I'm like, I don't know that I'm in the mood to consume this right now. And I want to make sure I am in a good mood.
Yeah.
Because when Kay is not in a good mood, we'll find fault in anything and everything. Hello, Lurking Writer. Welcome on in. So yes, look, David and I have been doing this talk show almost weekly for going on 3 years now. Did the math. It's getting quite impressive.
Yeah.
But you've been doing articles weekly for years, which is really quite impressive.
Oh, thank you. At different phases. Right now we are weekly, guest writers here and there. It's often GM advice, that kind of thing. Like I said, we do interview. If anybody who's out there, you can send an email to shadowmainrpg@gmail.com, and we will email you a bunch of questions. So you get to be interviewed without stage fright. And then we publish we publish your wonderful answers and whatever pictures or photographs you want to send us. we do that. We do some reviews, read-throughs, just about everything. Yeah,
Amazing.
we used to publish more than once a week, but since we've been writing adventures also, I don't know, the day only has 24 hours, it turns out. So
Yeah.
In my editing career, one of the things I did was for music bands, they would get interview requests, and they'd get emailed a bunch of questions, and then I would conduct the interview and record it and then transcribe it.
oh yeah,
Listen, if somebody's like, hey, we want to interview you, but we want to email you a bunch of questions, do it. One, like Jason said, it's a lot less pressure than like sitting here and having to like talk to people. In addition to that, the people on staff usually have a writer in-house, usually the person who's like asking, and no matter how silly sounding your answers are, they will not only clean up what you say, but they'll like email you and be like, did you mean this? Or, hey, can I change this to this so that you sound better? And let me tell you, like, I have had some blockheads, some absolute blockheads do interviews, and they come out sounding great. And like,
yeah,
they they weren't bad people. They just didn't necessarily interview well. They had anxiety, like people who would have been perfect in the shoegaze era of music, because they just don't make eye contact, or like they're like, I get on stage and I play the thing, the end. So yeah, if you have the opportunity, do it. It always works out great. Please and thank you.
yeah.
As
And, you
as
know,
a person
it's-
who has done comms and journalism, live interviews can be very difficult, especially if you have an unfriend, like, I don't want to say unfriendly, but a not there to help you interviewer. Which, you know, when I did games journalism, sometimes I would say, I'm not there to help you interviewer, because do you realize that this game that you're announcing is asking Americans to shoot other white people that they will identify as a Christian? Do you think that will maybe be a problem? No? Okay. Cool. Good luck with that.
yeah.
God, that game was so fun.
I mean, it's also the same thing we all run into with RPGs, the scheduling boat monster, right? That we'll email. We're not waiting on your replies. If it takes you months to get back to us, that's fine. You know, but we will work with your deadlines if we know somebody's trying to do a backer kit launch or something like that, we'll work with your schedule as much as we can.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
We're
happy
here to
say,
help people, not
yeah. At Cataclysm, we do the same. It's like, oh, you've got when is a good time for you? You know, which sometimes, look, it's mostly just me handling all the emails.
Yeah. And I have a rule which is harder on live, right? We have a rule that we'll send you a bunch of questions. If you want us to skip it, leave it blank, and we'll take the question out. So it just it's as if we never asked it, because what are we there for? We're not trying to make people mad or sad or whatever.
Exactly. So you mentioned, and we had the lovely little chit chat in the green room before we went live, which of course helps so much in these because we get to queue stuff up. But you mentioned, you talked about Shadomain, you do modules as well, and you were talking about how you have recently, like, your writing style, your GMing style has completely changed after reading certain modules.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that.
All right. There's a long story that goes along with this too.
Oh boy.
So the short story is that Jason Cordova, Brindlewood Bay, The Between, go read it. It might not be for you to GM it, but this is what I mean. We all evolve as we hear new opinions and learn new things. But that was one of those watershed moments for me. I was like, wait a minute. And that's because part of it for me was at least 3 years, maybe 4 years ago, I wrote a one-shot mystery game inspired by a certain board game, if that gives you a clue, based on murder mysteries. And it was used the cipher system, and it was one of these things, and it worked well. but then we published it as a PDF. And then a couple of years later, I was like, we could do better at this, and we improvised and improved it and published it as a PDF and play tested a lot. And I was like, boy, this is close, but it's not working. And I basically put it back on the shelf, convinced this is a great board game. It is not a great TTRPG. Until I read Brindlewood Bay, and I said, this is how you do that. So I reached out to Jason, real Jason, and talked to him about it. So now we have Hint. Oop, lots of glare. Which is a one-shot inspired by certain murder mystery board games, which is an adventure as a one-shot for Brindlewood Bay. And while I was writing it, I said, hey, do you mind if I kind of co-opt your ideas? And there's another version you can buy, which is just based on a very, very simple version of the Cypher system. So it's a game system within that one shot, just simple. Like, this is murder mystery. You don't need to be able to swing a sword at somebody. So and the characters, the pre-gens are there, everything's there. Anyway, that was something that we did, but that's why I was able to do it, because his systems, including Trophy Gold and later stuff, are completely open. And not just in the way that, oh, I wrote a backstory and I let you make up the name for a town. It's your characters walk into the library. Well, the GM can say, that corner bookshelf, there's something that really annoys you about that. What is it? And then you improv it, and it's great. And I should say the premise, if you've never played Brindlewood Bay, is usually solving a murder, solving a mystery. But all the GM does is set up scenarios and give you clues. And then you need to collect a certain number of clues, make up whatever wacky theory you can make up built around those clues, and you roll a die and see if it's correct. So even the GM doesn't know the answer to the mystery. And
that's really cool.
I was like, that's it. Like, the GM is just another player with different responsibilities.
Yeah,
so,
you can
that's
Jason
why
Mendoza your theory, and it can absolutely be right.
Yeah.
No.
It's weird, yeah. But that's why when we adopted it for some of the stuff where we published, I'll come right out and this game is not for everybody, right? If you want to bring your barbarian into a key dungeon and I open the door, what's in that room? It's probably not your game, and that's fine. Not every game is for everybody. But this is where I'm at right now. I'm running games where I'm asking the players to help build the whole adventure, not just basically. I look at it like I used to look at games like, I'm the DM, I build the roller coaster, you guys are on for the ride. Now it's more like we're all putting a jigsaw puzzle together. I might do most of the edge pieces, but we're all putting the puzzle together.
Yeah, Looking Writer says, I was reading about this via the site. I love that even the GM doesn't know who done it.
That's the best part. Well, I mean, like, for me, yeah.
And for everybody doing game design, do not design a game for everyone. No. Every game that I've played, whether video game or board game or TTRPG, that was designed for everyone was terrible. Like, whatever weird thing you're into, you could be pretty confident that there's an audience for the. And I tell like my writing clients all the time. It's like, do not try to do things for like whatever's like hot in the streets right now. Do something that you feel really passionate about, because one, that comes through in your writing, and two, you will find your people out in the world. Like, there's a reason that Omegaverse is a whole thing. If you don't know what Omegaverse is, please don't Google it. Just don't do it.
Or just look up Erika Ishii's reaction to finding out what the Omegaverse was, because that is worth. Erika, of all people, did not know what the Omegaverse was.
Right.
He is the best. I love her.
They are amazing, and the fact that they didn't know was just. Rex says Monopoly is a game for everyone. Make a game for you. Monopoly is a game for fistfights.
Right.
Design the games you
And-
want to play.
And
Rex,
fun
we
fact,
told you
yeah.
not to.
Monopoly was designed to start a fight. Like
Yeah.
every time
Yeah.
that you've gotten frustrated and mad at Monopoly, every time that you've changed a rule in Monopoly to make it easier to play or more fair or more equitable, that means that Monopoly was doing what it was designed to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get to free parking, you get a free feat. I think that's how you play it now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like Pathfinder. We will
Yeah.
not divert into Pathfinder and their feet fetish today.
I should say that I've run Hint at a lot of conventions, right? One shots, and it's random people, which is expected, but I don't know who they're going to be, right? So, one thing that I'll say up front, and I would advise other GMs who are running these kind of games, is that I have a rule that if I ask you an open question, the door slams, you turn around, you're shocked. What are you shocked by? If you're not comfortable with that, anybody at any time can say, I don't know, and then I'll improv. Because, we're not there to make people uncomfortable. And it doesn't even mean you're bad at improv. It just means, I don't know, you're not feeling it for that 1 minute that I happened to ask you.
Right.
And I think it was PAX East.
Gamer
I
moment.
ran it recently. I had 8 players, even though I told them 6. But yeah, so I had 8 players. 2 players had never played an RPG before, never even played D&D. So they didn't really know what it was. And I was like, okay. So I go with my spiel, you can do that. One of them was the first one to dive into the improv, with a pre-gen. It's like, oh, my character knows this because back in high school. And her partner was I don't know. So you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So. Of course, by the end of the game, even the I don't know guy was making stuff up. So sometimes you just need to be shown the direction.
Well, and sometimes too, it is a mindset. Like I play at an incredible table of incredible. It's a home game, but it's performers by and large, and we got the really cool moment. And it's not D&D, but it is a GM builds and runs the world game, and we are all there for that. But we reached a point where we're walking through like the traveling carts, the inside of a traveling cart, living / cluttered area of all of the things. And the GM went around the table one by one and was like, hey, your character sees something that is significant to them. Like they see an item. What item do they see that is significant? Right. And we went around and like 2 out of 7 people couldn't had a flail. And the GM kind of helped the one get to where she needed to be. And the final person, the GM just kind of had to go like, well, I know your character needs this particular thing. Like it's a need that your character has that you don't have access to anymore. And you see that in there.
Yeah.
So, and, performers even. So it does happen. I'm also going to say, not every game is for everyone, and that's absolutely fine.
Absolutely.
And not every game is for everyone. Is even for the same person on different days. I famously, if you watch the show, I really like pre-built lore-heavy worlds where I have to dig in and read, and I specifically build a character to fit within that world. Like that is where I am most happy and comfortable because that's just the kind of nerd that I am. And if you watch the show, I often struggle with rules light simply because the best way I can describe it is I feel like I'm playing a video game where the controls are floaty, right? I don't have a world that I can root into, but one shots, I can play anything. One shot's fine, right? But there are people who play rules light as whole campaigns. And I'm just like, how? Yeah. How do you do it? I don't understand. I've done it once and it was kind of terrible. Until I got invited to go play Wanderhome with Okami as my GM. And there was a really cool, moment within the game where and I think part of the reason I was better with Wanderhome was it absolutely did not have the combat to it, right? Without all of that and without, the playbook really dictating exactly what I could, like. But it was very fun to see people who started out, we didn't know each other at all. And then suddenly we had these really solid connections and we were each contributing to the world and taking what the other person contributed and building onto it. And well, it definitely took a little longer to get into some scenes than I would have liked. It was absolutely worth it because, we all got super invested. And this is why a big piece of advice that we give for D&D or any like pre-built world is, you walk in, you see the most beautiful person you've ever seen working the bar. Player, what does she look like? What do they look like? Because I'm not even going to tell you he, she, or they, or anywhere in between. And that is one of the really cool things one of the things I really appreciate about Rules Light is how it's teaching all of us teaching GMs to give up little pieces of control of their world to make it more welcoming for everyone. Welcome in, Lamia and Zykrum. Good to see you both.
Yeah, for me, it's I look at it in the same way that we talk about consent in gaming, lines and veils, because in the same way that you could say, these are my buddies, I've been playing with them for 10 years, we don't need to do a session 0. You don't know what happened to your buddy yesterday. And that's the same way I look at the improv, right? You may be playing with your most creative improv friend. If for that minute they don't feel that spark, that's fine. It's all good all the time. So you just have to be ready for that.
Yeah.
And accepting.
And also you talked about one of the really good things. I will let you explain it if you would like to, because I know the built-in consent tools in the Beyond are so good. And again, I have a little bit of the love-hate because it does take longer to get to the action, but also it's such a beautifully built-in consent system.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff is important to Jason. I'm not on his Discord all day long, but sometimes. So building it into the game makes sense.
Did you want to kind of describe it for viewers who maybe haven't played it or aren't as familiar?
I haven't run the Between in quite a while. I've run more Brindlewood Bay, which is slightly different.
Yes. So Between does this really cool thing for viewers where, it's like, as you were saying before, you do this thing, you're gonna jump the creek. You're gonna attempt to jump the creek. What do you think is the worst thing that could happen if you fail? And then you kind of work with the GM to negotiate, because then the GM can come back and say, okay, yeah, you might fall in and splash, but maybe, a leech will latch onto you. And you could be like, no, something, a bug can bite me, but nothing's attaching to me. Cool. And you kind of work out that whole consent system, which, live and in real time. And Dave and I have run a lot of horror, and player safety and comfort is very important. And, I have gone so far into like telling a player like, hey, it's your spotlight. That is a perfect emoji set, Lurking Writer.
Yeah.
I've gone so far as to tell a player like, hey, a specific thing is going to happen to you tonight. You are going to lose control of your character for a scene. I am telling you now, at the end of this scene, you will get control of your character back. And I do things like that because if Kay the player doesn't know that my character is going to be okay, Kay the player doesn't know that my character is going to live through this, Kay the player is going to play differently than if Kay the player knows this thing is happening and everything's, will be okay at the end.
Yeah.
Because there is play to survive, and then there is play to lean into the horror. And if I don't want my character to die and death is an option, then it's harder for me to lean into it both as a player and as a character.
So like, the basic
sorry, Zykram said, I hate mind control. This wasn't
Yeah.
even mind control. This was just like, you will be unable to move, but I want to make sure, are you okay with that? And then like, you'll get it back. You don't have to fight me. Go along with it narratively because it's going to be returned to you.
Yeah. So the reason you need this in the between, I mean, you need it everywhere, but a little bit more, is that the
Yes.
basic mechanic is before you roll, the keeper, the GM, will ask you, what's the worst thing that can happen if you fail this roll? And you'll describe it, you'll improv it, and then they'll tell you how, no, it's going to be that much worse. So that's a cool mechanic if you're running horror, but only if you know the boundaries, which is exactly what
Yes.
Kate's saying. Yeah, this takes a lot of conversation ahead of time, in game, after game.
And
It's spooky. By the way, all of his games are horror based. That's just what he does.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Brindlewood Bay being, it is horror, but it is.
It's the fluffiest horror.
It's Murder, She Wrote, and the Golden Girls meet H.P. Lovecraft's Eldritch horror. So, yeah.
Yes. The other example I wanted to bring up, because it is still one of my favorite moments in actual plays, and it ties into what you're saying about like, yeah, I've known my friend for 10 years.
Yeah.
Todd Kendrick was running a campaign, and Oba Lauren was playing her Dragonborn, who's a Dragonborn cleric, and was talking to her god. And the god, the Phoenix, basically said like, hey, I don't like it when people summon me. Like, bad things happen when I'm summoned, so I don't want to be summoned.
Right.
And Lauren's character like took a moment and said like, well, do you want me to not? Do you not like it when I summon you? And Todd, without breaking, like, was just like, I want to ask, are you looking for a specific answer, or are you okay with whatever answer I'm going to give? And Lauren replied, I think I know the answer that you're going to give, but either way, I'm okay with it. And they just continue. And it was such a glorious moment of these two people who have known each other for so long, who have played so many games together. And it was still a moment of check-in. We good? Because you've got a religious character and you do a bad thing to their god.
Yeah. Yeah. That gets tricky. I've been in situations where somebody who gave me a deep backstory, like I was like, oh, I could do this, but there's and this is kind of hard if you're a newer GM, there's a line, and where if I do more than that, I have to ask them.
Yeah.
And some people want to be challenged and some people don't, and you got to know that too.
Yeah. And some people
you know
are
what?
happy to be.
I should plug, if anybody doesn't know The Between, the YouTube channel The Bad Spot did an actual play earlier this year where Jason is the keeper, and with really great performers from the UK group. It's one of my favorite actual plays anywhere of any game. It's really good.
Hey, Ilaria, welcome in. Real quick, Julie says, I had a session where another PC ended up casting a mind control spell over me, and that was a rough playthrough, and after would not recommend. Yeah, like, mind control has to be done very carefully and very consensually. Same thing with like charm spells.
Yeah.
Your horny bard.
I hadn't even considered that. Because
I have.
Luckily, I've not run into anyone who's played a bard like that. And yeah, ooh-wee. Because charm lasts, what, like an hour? And an hour is plenty of time to do really terrible, terrible, awful things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been, I started playing with D&D a million years ago. But we didn't think about it then, right? We were teenagers. But yeah, I think about that, about not just charm. I mean, charm is bad, right? But even paralysis, you're effectively taking the player out of the game for quite a while. Unless you know you've got a player who really is okay with like embodying somebody else. Like I'm going to pretend I'm somebody else for a while, but you've got to know that, and you probably have to discuss it ahead of time. I don't know. Charm is rough. Mind control.
Yeah, like if
You hate
you're
to take it out of play because we've all read the fiction, right? Which is
Yeah.
full of that because it's fiction and you can do that. You don't have to worry about agency of fictional
Yeah.
characters. So
it again requires a lot of like
yeah,
communication, and most David and I have been fortunate enough where most people at our tables, be if we're players or running them, will have respect. And Candace is like, with consent I would like to, which is such a great just approach
that's
to
cool.
things.
Yeah.
The number of times I've DM'd someone like, hey, even if we're having play fights, we're in character at each other, and I'm like in their DMs going, are you okay? I love you, right? This is da-da-da-da-da. And like, especially when we run horror and people, because if you've seen Godplane, there's serious potential for PvP. And seeing people in the chat like, I love you so much, I'm so sorry, it's just my character, I adore you. But yeah, I famously, if you watch the show, I left a game because we had 3 combat sessions in 3 sessions, and I did not do a single point of damage in three combats across 3 sessions. And it was just like, well, why am I here? If we're going to mostly fight and I'm not allowed to fight.
Yeah, in the home game that Kay and I are in, one of our players, I made it clear to him that I was not picking on him. But I want to say in like 80% of the first like 5 encounters, he not only took the most damage, but went down every time. Oh. And I was like, hey, I'm not picking on you. Like, how are you feeling? He's like, oh no, this is fine. This is blast. And actually, we made like a whole storyline, and I invented a new god, and all sorts of things are happening kind of behind the scenes with that character now, specifically because of that.
Yeah. And yeah, it's one thing when the dice, sometimes the dice just don't go in your favor. And when a GM can find a way to reward you for sticking through the dice being little jerks, like they sometimes are. I'm looking at you in particular, dice. It knows what it did.
Well, that's why a lot of our, I don't know what I would call postmodern stuff that was done in the last 3-4 years, you get like experience points, you get chips every time you fail, like all the kids on systems. Even Daggerheart is doing that. And that way you have something.
Savage Worlds.
Yeah, that way you have something to do, right?
Yeah.
You're never, because in old school D&D, if you just miss, you just miss, and if that happens 5 times in a row, yeah.
So I know you do a lot of stuff in the Cypher system, and I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that because it is a decently flexible framework for you to build games upon.
So I've been pretty heavily into the site. It must be going on 5 years now that I found the Cypher system and used it. And I should say the Cypher system, I have to say it that now because Monty Cook is actually has a backer hit campaign right now. Sorry, Kay, you walked me into a commercial for somebody else.
Do it. It's fine. We
Monty
love
Cook
to talk about
campaign.
all the stuff people are doing in the TTRPG space.
Monty Cook has a campaign going right now for the next version of Cypher, which will be called Cypher, for better or worse, as opposed to the Cypher system. Whereas the system before was a framework where you could build your own game out of it. This is more like a traditional game. Okay. A traditional TTRPG, I should say, not a board game. Anyway, so the Cypher system is genreless, which is, we have a lot of those, right? PBTA, that kind of thing. And that's the way it was built. And it's heavily narrative. Your character isn't based on a species and a class. It's not based on just a skill set. You have a sentence And that sentence is, I am a adjective, noun, who, verbs. And that's what you have instead of being a dwarven barbarian. And you choose from a list of adjectives, you choose from a list of nouns. The noun list is only 4 or 5. And then you
Wow.
choose from a list of descriptors. So you end up with your character being defined in one sentence as like, I am a friendly warrior who bears a halo of fire. And they each give you different things. So your friendly is going to adjust your stats a little bit. And then you're going to get a ton of your abilities from being a warrior. And then a little bit of the freakiness from having bears a halo of fire. But it's so then you can twist it. So you could play sci-fi or fantasy or something like that. But they also have an open license. I will credit them because they did it a year before the OGL scandal. They weren't pressured into it. But they have a license, and you can use not their like IP, not the adventure settings and that stuff, but you can use the rule system, and you can more or less do anything you want. Except to their credit, they also have don't be a jackass.
Yep.
We can revoke this if you're doing hateful, if you're a bigot, if you're doing all those things, or any of those things. But you could do whatever you want, which is why I used it to do hint, where I use about less than half the rules, because it's only a murder mystery. You don't need to do most things, but you can. There's lots of people in the Cypher community now building on it. I'm going to take this and I'm going to do more that are specific to our setting.
Lurking Rider says, so to clarify, the Cypher system equals a framework to create your own games. Cypher equals a bespoke game of its own.
Yeah, I'm generalizing there. First of all, Cypher is crowdfunding now. They are still writing it, so we won't actually see it for another year almost. Now, it happens that the people at Monty Cook Games are very kind, and they helped us out because we had a Kickstarter for a Cypher product last month. And they knew we were going to do this. Not a Kickstarter backer kit, but they knew we were going to do this. So they took us aside and said, hey, by the way, we're going to be launching this thing in case it impacted our campaign. And they didn't have to do that, obviously.
That's very kind.
Just they're cool people.
Yeah.
But by the way, I'm not holding any secrets. By now, everything's in public that they've already told me. So, but yeah, so that's what it was built for. So the next system, from what they've said, and there's a lot of information on their backer kit, will be more like, because for instance, there's 4 basic types: a warrior, an explorer, a speaker, and an adept, which in fantasy, you take the adept and make a druid out of it, or a wizard. But if you're playing sci-fi, that might be your droid, your mech, your science officer, something like that. So the next version will be more specific, that, oh, you're playing fantasy, pick the druid, pick the wizard, pick the barbarian type. So you don't have to keep translating from these 4 very generic types. So in that way, it's still the core Cypher system, but it'll be much easier to get into. If you don't know the Cypher now, it's still pretty easy to get into, but this will be even easier to sort of jump in and play really quickly.
Yeah. It's gotten a little more granular, which also removes some of the like decision interpretation paralysis, it sounds like.
Yeah. The Cypher system, by the way, is also the system behind the games for the Old Gods of Appalachia horror podcast and the Magnus Archives horror podcast. So
But
you may
don't
know
give
it even
David.
if you don't know.
Hold on. We got to give David the floor.
Yeah.
Look, I have listened to both, not as much the Appalachia podcast.
Yeah.
But the Magnus Archives is literally the best podcast I've ever listened to. Full stop.
It's pretty incredible. And the new one that's still going on is even freakier for me.
I specifically have not listened to I forget what it's called, the Magnus something. Yeah, the Magnus protocols.
Yeah.
Because in my tradition, I wait for it to be. It's also why I haven't watched any of the new seasons of Strange New Worlds. I wait for it to be done because
Oh,
once I
okay.
get started, I'm going to go through all of it. And it is not 1995. If you make me wait till next week,
Yeah, I get
I will
that.
fist fight you. I will find your front lawn and I will wait out there with my
Yeah.
cane and fist fight you.
I will
give
get
it
45
all to me
straight
now.
hours of like David reacting to a series I have not watched, but
Yeah.
needs me to know that he is going through it and he is mad or excited or.
So the Magnus Archives, by the way, is a great game. It's cipher based, but it is wholly contained. You don't need to buy the cipher rule book. Everything's in the Magnus Archives book. But that's where they started to make wholesale changes. Because one of the things about the cipher system is out of the box, tier 1, your character is usually pretty capable, which doesn't lend to horror. You need to, it that makes it harder to put these people on the edge and sort of the Magnus Archives is pushed more towards Call of Cthulhu, where your character could die if the wind blows too strong. Not literally, but yeah, there's some really cool horror stuff in there for a TTRPG. Which doesn't surprise me if you're a history TTRPG buff. Monty Cook was at WotC in the 90s when he wrote the Book of Vile Darkness. So the first TTRPG book with a warning label on it that you were supposed to be 18. So yeah, it's not shocking.
A friend of mine, one of his hobbies, which I found out recently, is he digs up old out of print TTRPG systems from like the 80s.
Nice.
And then gets them printed out and then reads through them. And I'm like, one, you fucking nerd, you turbo nerd. But
yeah, really.
He said the big hallmark of early TTRPG systems is how meat grindy they are. Like, he's like, there are multiple systems I read where I got to the end of it and I was like, oh, if I'm playing this game, I got to show up with 3 characters rolled, ready to go, because 2 of them aren't going to make it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the original Tomb of Horrors was like that famously. And that was, well, actually, if you were at Origins, that was in 1975. So,
wow.
And because David dropped the link, so we have now teased it. It's also, I think, in the episode title. I think I typed up the episode title less than an hour ago. You'd think I'd remember, but Lurking Rider says definitely needs to learn more about Gun Doomsday.
Yeah, so this one has a long story too. I'll cut out the long.
We got time. We got like an hour and 45 minutes still. So go.
So Gun Doomsday uses the cipher system as its framework. It is a combination of Weird West and gothic horror and post-apocalypse all in one.
Hey DC, welcome in.
With the idea being that there was an apocalypse about 10 years before present day when you start that wiped out 90% of the earth. But this apocalypse isn't nuclear or zombie or virus. Well, it's a little zombie. It was like an explosion of fiends and evil spirits and demons on the earth. It just killed everybody.
Love it.
And not everybody. 10%, 10% are left. So that's your apocalypse.
A lot of people, yeah.
So because you're down to 10% of the population, there's no government, there's no trains, there's no food supply. You're basically struggling to survive every day. You just wake up and figure out how you get to the next one. But you're also in the Weird West. So you've got 6-gun shooters and gamblers and all the usual tropes. And the weird part is the Industrial Revolution happened mid 1800s, but it was a little weirder than on our Earth. And you get sort of steampunky inventions and stuff, which kind of your only hope against these demons who conquered the Earth. And at the core, there is the struggle between what we call the spirits of life which would be your positive forces, pretty much any kind of spiritual force that kind of wants humans to exist, versus the evil demon and stuff that tried to kill the earth. And that happens out there when you're fighting some fire-headed skeleton. It happens in here too. That is in your spirit, that you get powers sometimes when the spirits of life are trying to help you. You might roll a natural one, and then I guess the spirits of doom have taken that from you. And
So,
we altered the system quite a bit, so it doesn't play exactly like Cypher. It's more deadly. You don't have the same kind of short rests, which in Cypher would have been called recovery rolls. You get like 1 point instead of 1d6 recovery. On top of you could just starve to death because you haven't found any food in a week. But there's also the Cypher system typically does this resource management thing where your ability scores aren't scores, they're pools that you can spend to use your abilities. So I'm a fighter, so if I want to swing my axe really hard, I'll spend some of my strength points and do extra damage. And typically your damage comes from that also, so you can lose those points by getting hit in combat or falling into a ditch. This one doesn't even do that. You have like 6 levels of life to start. Every time you get hit, you lose a level. When you get down to 3, things get bad. And when you get down to 0, when you get down to 0, you have a choice to make. You can go aces and eights, or you can flip the silver. Flipping the silver just means you roll a die, and odds you're completely dead forever, and evens the spirits of life have helped you out and you pop back up. Aces and eights, you make a deal with those evil spirits and you do pop right back up with 4 levels of life, but you're gonna have to pay that cost for a while. You're essentially haunted. Anyway, that's what we did.
I feel like I'm decently ready.
I said I was going to shorten that, and I didn't. That was a very long rant. Nice.
So lately I have, like, storytelling wise, explored the different types of subgenres of horror, and like the hallmarks of them. Like, for instance, like Southern horror and Gothic horror and like Appalachian horror all have like very different hallmarks.
Yep.
And American horror is a thing in particular compared to classic horror or horror in different countries. But especially for people who aren't American, can you talk a little bit about Weird West and how that's different from like a like New England style horror or like a generic American horror?
Yes, because dear friend of the channel, Lurking Writer, says, I live in a kind of Weird West, except it's the west of England.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so there are other games, right? Deadlands has a certain amount of horror to it, and there are a few others that are either coming out or soon to come out. And a lot of that is just I said just like it's no problem. I was going to say the fear of death, right? That
that little thing. You're
fighting for your life. I personally chose Gothic horror because that's my favorite style of horror, and we kind of gloss over this, I think, in our current pop culture, that Gothic horror, that's those black and white Universal movies, right? Dracula, Frankenstein, which is true. Those started as Gothic horror, but just putting a vampire in your game doesn't make it Gothic horror. It's Gothic horror is a very personal thing. That's why, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, there's a lot of motif about guilt that's associated with those protagonists. And, it's all through Edgar Allan Poe's stories. Portrait of Dorian Gray, all the classic stuff, particularly from the 1800s, the Gothic horror, although right through House on Haunted Hill. And that's what I'm going for. I mean, it's pretty horrific when a slasher comes at you, but that's not what this game is about.
Yeah, the struggling with the darkness within. What do you do to survive? And then how do
what
you
makes you
cope with what you
different
did
from
to
these?
survive?
Yeah, what makes you different from these creatures? Yeah, and what do you have to do to survive? And are you still the person that you started with if you had to do these things? But yeah, I was just going to say there's plenty of combat too. It's not just
Yeah.
It's not just soul searching.
And I think one of the hallmarks of Weird West compared to other types of horror is, in a lot of classic horror, you know what the core fear is.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned Edgar Allan Poe. Pretty much every Edgar Allan Poe story starts off with, I did a bad thing and now I'm hiding it. Or I'm building up to a bad thing that I'm going to do and I feel ways about it.
Yeah.
But with Weird West, in a lot of ways, it's about not just fear of the unknown, which is also like very common, but one of the hallmarks is you know that there's something unknown and something awful, and then you have to push through it. Like you have to approach it and interact with it, because there's also the element of like manifest destiny in just westerns in general, of that the harsh march west, the harsh march into what ostensibly is the unknown, even though people definitely knew about it, but because people lived there.
Right.
But the whole idea of like um Western civilization versus nature and the untamed and the supposedly wild, um and like Lurking Rider said, you have died from dysentery.
Yeah.
Terry was pissed off and you probably shouldn't have fucked with him.
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Exile. Would that make Kafka's Metamorphosis Gothic horror, perhaps? I could probably talk about the Metamorphosis longer than I can talk about Gothic horror. Kafka wouldn't have considered his stories horror. We might look at them that way today, especially if you're transformed in your bed into a large bug. Um, he he was going after something completely different, which to the reader is just as horrific. But Kafka is more, that's existentialism more than Gothic horror. But
There's similar
yeah,
threads.
he's writing about the internal struggle that the protagonist is going through, but in that case, it's what he's going through because of the outside world.
I love how literary we're getting in this episode. It does
But
my
I
little
just got
English
lucky,
major
and he
heart
happened to
so
mention
happy.
a story that I know very, very well.
I mean, we talked about some Poe. We talked about like obviously a personal favorite of someone named Dampier is,
mhm.
Dracula. So no, I'm just very happy. But yeah, that's that is my favorite style of horror. Is I think Urban Bohemian Brian, they described the God Plane as like consequence horror,
Yeah.
which is exactly my favorite kind of thing. The home game that I play in is horror, and I am playing a cinnamon bun who has to do terrible things to save the world. And how do you keep being a cinnamon bun and keep your faith in humanity when you are learning that your god is literally creating monsters and you are having to stop those monsters? It's very fun.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we banter around in social media where we don't have time to actually discuss things, it is like D&D is horrible at horror, or no, it's really good. Let's play Curse of Strahd. But that's one of the right, because your mechanics are super heroic. If you get over 10th level, right, your barbarian might have 200 hit points. But that only applies if what you're afraid of is getting to 0 hit points and dying. And there are lots of things you can be afraid of besides death. And that's a lot of what, like, gothic horror, folk horror, that's what you're dealing with. The things that you may be afraid of more than death. And actually that enters into Magnus Archives too, you know.
Well, and that's the home game I'm in is a big part of this, like, is and you know, you might survive, but like you will be changed physically and mentally. And is it maybe better off to be dead than to go through that? But also, speaking of other Jason, I've gotten to play Trophy Dark, and that is very much like you are the bad guys and you might survive, but it might have been better if you were dead.
Yeah, which can come up if you play Blades in the Dark long enough too. Although Jonathan is a completely different designer. But
yes. But yeah, I love those. It took me a while to realize that I play games and characters and tell these stories for different reasons than a lot of people, because for me it's often a question or looking for an answer. You know, what is it like to feel this, or how would someone conquer this? And so I spend a lot of time thinking about, like, it's part of the reason I have a hard time with games that are just random character generation, right? Because I'm like, I kind of have an idea of what I want to explore, and I need a certain set for that. And yeah, I definitely have some very hard lines about certain things. You know, the easiest one of which is like, my character's never going to be pregnant. I'm not dealing with that. That is not a thing I have any interest of, right?
right.
But I do enjoy, like, outside of those really hard lines, like the pushing, the questioning, the make my character have, you know, the crisis, and how do they come out on the other side. That's always fun for me to explore. Lurking Rider says the real curse of Strahd is that he's a knockoff Dracula. He knows it. He's forever doomed to have people break into his home and steal his chairs. Or maybe that's just my experience with that particular setup.
That is great. I haven't played this yet, but you guys, have you seen The Doomed Forgotten Realms? I don't think it goes through Curse of Strahd. It's like a scenario where your characters are playing in the Forgotten Realms as if the heroes of Avernus and Tyranny of Dragons all failed. So all the early 5e campaigns. So it's just like over. Oh yeah, Tiamat like rules over here now, and it's
That's fun.
I don't think it goes as deep as Curse of Strahd, because I think it came out before that. But
yeah, we have so many Jasons being discussed tonight. We've got
I know I am at least 3 down the Jason peg board, I think.
So yes, you've done and you just finished another successful Kickstarter.
But our only successful Kickstarter, really the only Kickstarter we've done. That's a long story too, which I could talk about, but yeah, so that's Six Gun Doomsday was our first and only successful Kickstarter. It's hard. I actually researched. So I've been writing Six Gun Doomsday since spring of 2024, off and on. But I've been researching crowdfunding for longer than that. So I struggle with succeeding in a Kickstarter campaign, but I can probably give everybody else advice on what they need to do to get it to work, because I know how it works.
So I have a question, because you mentioned the the Cypher system earlier and how
Yeah.
they're still writing it. Um, and you're obviously the lead writer on Gun Doomsday. How did the backer kit slash Kickstarter process impact your writing of it, if at all?
Let's see. How does the fact that we were going to crowdfund it versus if we just had a publisher,
Right.
how did it change it? Well, by the way, I wasn't writing during the month we were crowdfunding because,
No.
again, 24 hours in a day. What are you
Also,
gonna do?
if you were doing a backer kit slash Kickstarter, your stuff should be like 80% done. Don't go,
Yeah,
I'm gonna kickstart it and then I'll figure it all out. No, it should be more done than not.
Ours is not. The layout part of it. I've been play testing it for a year, so a lot of the manuscript part is done. But
Like,
yes,
if you have written
now.
nothing,
Yeah, most people do. Well, you can't do it if you do nothing. But most people are even further ahead now than we are. But we could talk about the history of crowdfunding and how things have changed even in the last 3 years.
yes.
But anyway, I guess David's question though was more about how did it affect the writing. The fact that I was going to kickstart it didn't really impact me that much. I didn't make any decisions, I don't think, to sort of say, oh, this will hit bigger, right? This will hit bigger with an audience and I'll get more pledges. So that part of it didn't impact me. There were things that I changed about, the way that we used the Cypher system or didn't because of that potential change. I told all the backers, knowing that this other change in the Cypher system was coming up, we'll release a free update to everybody who backed it. But what we did was design a game that will have very little impact from the changes because the additions, the modifications we made kind of make it into a separate game in a lot of ways. So I think that impacted my writing more, that like making sure that this game would be okay tomorrow as it will be in 2 years, impacted it more than the fact that we're going to crowdfund.
Makes sense. And I'm just going to throw it out there again, because anytime we talk about fundraising, kickstarting, backer kitting, whatever your system, have art. Art will make or break your campaign. I hate to say it, but it is true.
One of the reasons I can get away with this is my degree is in graphic design and illustration. So I'm a writer lately, but I've done a lot of InDesign. I've done a lot of layout. So I'm doing everything on this book except editing, because this game takes place about 10 years after the Civil War. And even though it's on an imaginary Earth, writing a game 10 years after slavery ended at a time during colonialist Western expansion, I'm not the best guy to make sure everything's written well. So I was like, I'd rather have an artist, but I can do that if I have to. I can edit myself. And David, you can't edit yourself anyway, but in this situation, It was even worse.
Bring on sensitivity readers, consultants early, because if you hand them an 80% done thing and they say this whole thing is bad, and you go, well, I can't change that without significantly altering the deadline, then you haven't let them do their job.
Right.
Yeah, because it might be the final terms, say this and say this way instead of that. It might be the theme that you've gone in, and then you're in trouble. Which is why you need to start early.
I've both spoken to sensitivity readers for books, for publishing, and read a lot of discourse online, especially for video games and TTRPG design. And the number of times that they're 99% of the way, and they're like, I guess we should have a sensitivity reader come in. and then they hire somebody, pay them less than what they deserve, and then go, yeah, we understand that you have some problems with this, but it's already done, so the end.
Yeah, we're just gonna slap your name on the book. Thanks.
Yeah.
And my toxic trait is, even working as an editor, I think that everything I write is gold and is just ready to go, which is why whenever I work on literally anything, I gotta like roll up a newspaper, hand it to Kay, and be like, all right,
Yeah.
you are now authorized to bonk. Though Kay is always authorized to bonk. But
yeah, I mean, it's not as simple as saying, oh, you use that word, don't use that word, it's a bad word. I mean, it would be if you did do that, but
Yes.
but it could be more like, well, we see the view from these people's perspective, and they're all like white English people, and we never see the view from this Navajo. Those are the things you are not going to notice as a writer. If somebody else has to come in with a completely different perspective and say, how come we only see it from these points of view?
Yeah, like it's now I've read precisely 3 pages of Twilight, and I haven't seen any of the movies. However, Kaba, more than one person has pointed out to me, the vampires get whiter as they get older, and all of the werewolves are multiracial, or they're all not white. And it's like, even if Stephanie Meyer didn't do that intentionally, boy howdy does it look bad. Especially
that's exactly right.
when you're Mormon, and Mormon didn't think we were human until like it was like 1973 or something like that.
Yeah, it was
I always get
way
the year
too
wrong.
recent. Well, and
Yeah.
also, you can think you're telling a cool, empowering story, right? And you were kind of blinded by your own
78.
race, like 78. Yeah, way too recent.
God.
Because like we don't like bringing this up, but I'm going to reference like the Hadozi. They specifically had a thing in where like, elven captains, generally don't treat their Hadozi well. And that was just basically a softball for the white savior, for anyone to walk in and go, well, I'm an elf captain and I treat my Hadozi well.
Yeah,
Good.
that was a weird situation. The recent one. And then a year later they put out Radiant Citadel, which is really well done. I don't it's like, is that the same company? But okay, anyway.
Not the same writers.
Not the same writers.
Not the
at
same
all
writers.
the same writers.
And so for one, we are anti-AI because AI is problematic for so many reasons. Like we every science fiction author envisioned a future, like even like the worst like dystopian sci-fi is like, we made machines that made our lives better and gave us free time. We did not envision making robots to do the writing and art so that we had more time to labor. Like that is completely backwards. But in addition to that, AI has a lot of failure points, which like the tech bros are very directly ignoring. And that is the fact that, yeah, it can turn out at best below mediocre stories by yanking from and compiling stuff and arranging words in an order. But the like through line of a story, an AI can never understand, because AI doesn't understand things. It just does pattern recognition. And especially when the pattern of published works for the past 400 years have mostly been racist or sexist in some way, then AI is going to be racist and sexist in some way. And so you really need eyeballs on that to like make it not.
We're all 3 writers here. Can we take a minute to complain about how AI is trying to take the M- from us?
Ooh.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm a typographer as a day trade, so it's even worse. I make the fonts that have the M dashes in them, so yeah.
We appreciate your including the M-. Because for those of you who don't know, one of the key tells now about if something is written by AI is that it has the M dash. And the reason that has happened is because AI has gobbled up the writing of like professional writers, of people who know how to write, who write prolifically, and by and large, not always, but by and large, write well, because you do not have to be a professional writer to be a good writer. Look at some people on AO3.
Right.
The unpaid labors of love that have made literal novels a reality. And it has gobbled that up. Hi, everyone. What is a stream without some tech gremlins? Please, someone talk while I try to fix this quickly.
Should I tell my AI story?
Yes, please.
do.
Okay. So we published an article today, and it was it's basically a read through of Monty Cook, the free preview for this backer kit I just mentioned, and I was like, I wonder what ChatGPT would say about this. So the article is actually me saying, hey, this is cool, this is what they're doing, and also ChatGPT summarizing it, and then I get to say ChatGPT screwed this up and they got this right. So it sort of does two things at once. But I got somebody blocked me immediately, and I tracked it down to as soon as I said ChatGPT in the post about it. They didn't even go to read if I was being critical of ChatGPT. They're just like, no, this guy uses generative AI.
Yeah.
Which isn't, because I'm actually using analytical AI, but still, the point was it wasn't good.
Yeah. So, finish the through point. ChatGPT gobbled up all the M dashes, went, oh, this is how you use this, and started putting it in tweets and such for people who don't normally use the M dash, because if you didn't spend a lot of time in English classes or with English literature, you probably don't use, well, I can't say only English. I don't know how common M dashes are in other languages. Let me quickly clarify that. So now, like, I have been accused of using AI to write because I use M dashes. And I'm like, you will take it from my cult. You can't have the sparkle emoji either. The sparkle emoji will not be taken from us.
Well, people are looking for ways to figure it out. Oh, AI is bad, so I need a binary, simple way to label you. I mean, the reason we don't use AI, besides the fact that most people don't, it's not on our keyboard. So you need a layout program that does the intelligent substitution, or you just need a way to do it right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we were never supposed to use this many hyphens. Damn it! What the hell?
And I've said this before, but what I find particularly aggravating about AI is that the discourse around AI has been warped and poisoned because of its rampant misuse and the bad intentions behind it. Because I want to sit here and say, hey, AI has like really good logistical applications. Like everybody who's ever sat through LA traffic knows that in the past, I want to say 10 years, traffic in certain parts of the city, while not like less voluminous, moves faster because all of the lights are synced. And that was one of the things that happened, I want to say in like 2015, where they introduced an algorithm to sync up the lights. And now that's why that works great. Or like weather projections are more accurate now, or at least they were until, but like there are all sorts of ways that AI can make our lives better. And instead of making our lives better, they use it to post unbelievable relationship posts on Reddit. And it's like, why? Like we've fabricating ridiculous stuff has been the hallmark of both reality TV and talk shows since the dawn of television. We already have that. We have so many brains working towards that. You don't need a computer to do that. Have a computer do math for me. How about that? Have a computer calculate putting a man on the moon, because the last time they called it a computer and it was a bunch of women. Like maybe give the women a break and give them the money and have the computer do it for them. Like maybe do that for once.
Yep.
But instead, I have to be completely and totally anti-AI because all of the dude bros in Silicon Valley are using it as a cudgel to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to actually work to develop a skill or a talent at all. And then I'm going to call myself an artist. Like fuck out of here.
Yeah, Lurky Writer says fabricating weird stuff is why we're human.
Right.
See, in The Good Place, oh, look, someone came up with something completely new that has never been done before. And believe it or not, it's not a sex, it's a sex thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, there are
Yeah.
different kinds of algorithms. Consumer generative AI is only one kind. Right. And we are
Absolutely.
general intelligence AI is not going to come out of a large language model, y'all.
Nope.
It's not. It doesn't work that way.
Impossible.
That's not how LLMs work. And there are, look, I am afraid to say this because I know it will get me in trouble, but there are good uses for large language models. They're not the things they're being used for, right? But surprise, surprise, a program that is really good at analyzing language is actually really good at taking this phrase in English and turning it to this phrase in Spanish. It's actually quite good at that. It's not going to be as good as a real person who is fluent and can catch it all, but if you're like struggling to communicate in a foreign country, it's pretty decent at that. It's not going to translate Shakespeare. At least not well. It's not going to get any of the nuances, but
And
there
listen,
are
if you're really
uses
going to
for
study
it.
Shakespeare, you should really read it in the original Klingon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can even, assuming you had the right data pool to study, it could help you translate into languages and that account for other cultures, right? That there are ways that you want to phrase that in a language of India or China. You can't dump it on the entire internet and expect that because, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at how quickly chatbots have been manipulated into having certain mindsets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Conversely, look at how hard Elon Musk had to push to keep Grok from going woke.
Yeah, it's
And
almost
I
like
will
a
say-
facts skewed liberal, but you know.
And I will say, because you know there are many. Unfortunately, we live in an age of disinformation. We live in an age where people just read headlines, so misinformation gets spread so easily because it sounds. And we live in an era where everything sounds believable. Like when The Onion literally sounds like actual headlines. Like, but where was I going with it? Oh, the important thing to remember, it's the same thing that happened with NFTs, and it's the same thing that happened with the metaverse. If this technology was truly this revolutionary, if this technology was truly going to change our lives for the better, they would not be pushing it on us. They would be gatekeeping it from us.
Yeah.
They would be using it to make the games. They would be using it to make movies instead of going, no, you have to have this. No, you need this. No, you need that. No. You need this. We don't. You do.
For those of you who are in the industry, you remember a time when the movie industry, you remember a time when there was a heated debate about CG characters replacing real actors.
Mm-hmm.
And most people haven't seen it. Even more people don't remember it. But Final Fantasy Spirits Within came out and completely ended that discourse.
Mm-hmm.
That movie dropped, and after the opening weekend, no one ever spoke about CG actors replacing real actors ever again. And have there been like fully mocapped CG movies since then? Yes. And like, you know, many AAA games have like hour-long cutscenes that are fully mocapped, but replacing real human beings, not
Right.
happening.
Right. We have the Planet of the Apes movies, but they don't use the
Right.
CGI for humans.
Mhm.
Right.
Even what's his name? General what's his name in the Star Wars prequels when they like recreated him. Like he was a distinct and freaky looking dude. And they recreated him very distinct and freaky looking, and it was like, that's still not
Yeah.
right. Nope. Can't do it. Uncanny Valley's hitting real hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I could be grognard here, but if you can get a copy of the original Empire Strikes Back with the puppet Palpatine, it's not great looking, but it's scary as hell. Because it's just like that Muppet is creaking me out. What are we?
Yes, Grievous. Thank you, Christopher Plummer. As always, technology is potentially actually good at the thing it's designed to do when you try to use it for everything else. And there's a really fascinating article, and then I'm gonna bring us to wrap it up because we are Grand Moff Tarkin. Yes.
Oh, in Rogue
Yes.
One. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, they did the
I
same
lost.
thing after Carrie Fisher died too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah.
But there's a really fascinating article about how the AI believers, like the people who are hitting AI psychosis and the people who believe that it's developing personality, their language is exactly the same as people who fall for cold reads, psychics, all that stuff. There's a really great article that just kind of breaks down, like, I started reading what people were saying and all of that sounded very familiar. And yeah, it's a fascinating, human psychology is in a very interesting place. And in a very strange way, I do think it's part of why it's important that we play games and we like test out what is reality and what is not, and what are we really comfortable believing, because we are all susceptible to propaganda. But if we get in a habit of questioning, it's like if you want to learn to lucid dream, you're supposed to look at your hand and bring your finger to your palm and believe with all your heart that your finger will go through your palm. And you have to do that multiple times a day. Because if you do that in your waking life, you'll do that in your dream. And that's how you realize you're dreaming. And the more you do that, the more you can start to recognize things. So, yes, Gilmore is here to see us off. So, yes, little guy. So we are nearing the end of our time. Thank you so much. I'm going to do a quick rundown of outros, and then we will give you the floor as we go. So as always, thank you, chat, for being here. You are wonderful. You always make our Tuesdays better. Thank you for being so engaged and so much fun and correcting me when I can't remember the name of a character / actor / which movie it was, and then correcting me on top of that. I'm Kay. I'm here every Tuesday doing this. This is Gilmore. He is here every Tuesday as well, though not always on camera. Friday, hopefully, allegedly, will be the Weird Wilds War at 5 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're playing Brandon. And anytime I throw on the voice, I know I'm going to start torturing David. And then Saturday the 13th, I will be at Dax's channel. That's for a Star Wars 2-shot for charity. I will be playing one of my favorite characters ever to play, who I actually played in Trophy Dark, and I am so excited. There's art. It's incredible. David, who the heck is you and what the heck has we been doing here?
I am remembering that both no company had to sell me an email address, and no company had to convince me to get a cell phone. Both things that have been immensely useful. Hi, I'm David. This was, is, and will be the chaotic, wholesome Tuesday Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better GM, how to be a better player, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
Jason, thank you for coming on. Y'all don't know, Jason Shadomain is always in the chat, is always in the YouTube comments. We so appreciate you. Part of one of the many reasons that we do this is the connecting with people and getting to do all this. So Jason, thank you so much for always being there and for coming on the show. Remind us, who the heck is you, where we can find you, and how we can support you.
All right. Thanks for letting me come on and not giving either of you a chance to talk. So I am Jason. I'm at shadowmain.com. You can find us weekly. Everything, like I said, if anybody wants to do an interview of any kind, check us out. You can email us. Everywhere else on the interwebs, I am Shadomain. That's the benefit of making up a word. Nobody else has the tag. So there's that. I'm not going to be at any of the fall conventions, but I'll be at Page, I think, if anybody is in the Philadelphia area in January, which is fun. It's right. That's where you want to be in January, is Philadelphia. But I don't know. I'm told they have heat somewhere, so it should be fine.
Fingers crossed. I'm going to speak quickly because someone's having a very loud fight directly under my window, and I think my mic is picking it up on occasion. Thank you all again. We are going to skedaddle on out of here and find someone to raid. Thank you as always for being here with us. So be kind to yourself, be excellent to others, and we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.